Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second episode of the Wellness Tribe podcast. My name is Danish Odongo, the host and the founder of the Wellness Tribe, an organization that is doing a lot of work of just linking the broader issues of society to wellness. And today we are discussing a topic that is quite interesting. Let me tell you a story that I sent out a video and I only got 2 responses. Last week when I sent out a video about this girl who was in school, I got like overwhelming response. And today, to help me make sense, are two brothers I've known for a while. On my left is Mr.
Eric Mungai,
Okay,
Yazoo Africa.
Yazoo Africa. And on my right,
I am Peter Mbuga, a counseling psychologist.
counseling psychologist.
Yes.
Eric and Peter, I told you guys that I sent out this video and we really got feedback. Is it that, what's going on? Why are men killing themselves? Why are men dying at a rate that they're dying?
Well, of course, it has to begin. It begins with, of course, the overwhelming pressure that
Yeah.
I think today's man is subjected to. The expectations to his academic qualifications, his expectations to status in society, his expectations as this amazing, perfect father, perfect husband, romantic lover, all these expectations, all these things that he is expected, or this standard is expected to reach for and stand upon. But then he is constantly being reminded that he's an actor, he's in a play, he doesn't have the skill set or the ability to step up. So it's all that pressure.
It's all that pressure.
Mm.
It sort of feels like this pressure is new and it's only modern men who panga a line and they're injected with some sort of pressure that now you've got to be a new top of mind. It's always been like that. Men have always had this pressure. Why are they succumbing now?
Wow. Okay. That's an interesting view, but I think it's different.
Okay.
One thing is we become a global village in a way. So information is very fast.
Yeah.
So we get a lot more pressure from that knowledge, from that competition, and as men, our responsibility gets bigger and bigger. Evolutionarily, the man was always in charge of the home, for example. You still are, even up to this date, even with all this balancing of roles and things like that. A man still feels very responsible for his children, for his wife, for his community. Even when nobody is looking at him, he feels the pressure. And as my friend said, today is not quite normal because there are a lot of things like economic situations which are way out of my league. I think the only thing that could hit the earlier man was the weather only, probably, and the crops didn't.
And a neighboring tribe that was going to attack you and perhaps abduct you and turn you into a slave.
Yes, but you see, those they had gotten used to. But today, the pressures are all different, and they're just way out.
Why are men not getting used to the pressure? Do you think the problem is that maybe perhaps we are not evolving as fast as we ought to? But before you answer me, let me give just a bit of statistics. The latest death by suicide was of a young doctor who was 33 years old, died by suicide and wrote a suicide note. The problem, he said, was that, of course, economic issues and job opportunities and stuff like that. But last year in 2021, about between the month of March and the month of June, we had about 550 deaths by suicide. Out of those, 70% were men. So in all deaths by suicide, men compose over 70% of the deaths in this country. Eric, are we struggling to adjust to the reality that maybe we are not the caveman anymore and life has completely changed and we've got to adjust?
I wish we were the caveman.
It was safer.
It was safe and it was easy. And the reason why is, as years passed, the concerns of a man were, it rained and we had a crop. There was no crop failure.
Yeah.
My family is protected. Yeah. And he even had time for a siesta. Every day in the afternoon, he could take time off. And in a full year cycle of about 12 months, there were a few months where, as a community and as a village, it was just, let's party, let's have a good time. The crops were good. Let's socialize. Today, on the other hand, is you are constantly, every day, you're living and pushing to be better than. And there's also this new phenomenon in our society today, especially because of social media, of standards. I want the soft life. I want to be able to provide this. I just don't want to go on holiday.
Yeah.
I want to go to Maldives.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go to Maldives once a year. I want to do it 2 or 3 times a year. Yeah. And I don't want to go with the local flights or whatever. If I can even hire a private jet or even have a ride on a helicopter. So we are constantly upping the pressure for standards. And the standards are not even for us. It's for the glory. And it appeals. And the reason why the pressure is so much on us men is because men, the way we are, it's the way we are wired.
Yeah.
It's that we want to show up. We want to be at the top. We want to be the village hero.
Yeah.
And that we've moved that concept and that idea and that desire away from the village. We want it in the global stage. I always want to do better. I want to drive a bigger car. I want to live in a better neighborhood. My kids have to go to a better school. So what is happening is that we are not satisfied. We are greedy. And that greed, one of the consequences of that greed is pressure that we are not capable or built to bear. And that pressure eventually comes at a cost. And that cost is our mental health. And when you begin to realize privately, because we don't also talk to anyone, you're by yourself in your home every evening, you begin to realize, I am actually a failure. And I have no purpose. And the moment you take purpose away from man, he loses meaning for life.
It's done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, and I think purpose makes the difference between a man and a beast. Of course, we've come a long way from the jungle, but somehow we've gone back to the jungle. Yeah. The things you're talking about, they started as survival for the fittest. Yeah. I had to be swifter and faster to be able to get the meat for my family. Okay. But now we're not in the jungle and we're back to square one. I want to be the best. I want the best car. I want the best phone. A phone for 100K is not good enough. How is that linked to survival at all? This now has changed instead of and I have a mentor of mine. He's called Professor Selvam. He talks about the 3 P's. Okay, when we focus on pleasure, power, and possession, where does it end? Yeah, you lose your purpose and you spiral downwards to your death, and that's where we are going to. I remember one of my clients called me sometime very late in the evening. He said, I have to talk to you. I have to talk to you right now. I said, what's up? He says, I went to our colleagues, somebody I went to school with, and the kind of house he's living in. My goodness, and how many cars he has. I felt sad. I felt sad. I thought I was doing well. I thought I was doing well, but I'm feeling sad. So in the process, we've forgotten to be grateful for how far we've come. Yeah, we're always looking at best. I mean, everything we're looking at, and I think that's the pressure of life. Instead of being satisfied by how far I've come a long way.
Yeah.
I'm looking up at the next level.
At my peers and everyone around me. And there's something that Peter has mentioned that is important for us to use as a basis for where the man is today.
Yeah.
Back when we were surviving, we survived in communes and communities. We were
Tribes.
a group. We were a gang. We don't have that today. Today, it's you alone. We went to hunt as a group.
Yes.
Everyone had a role to play. But whatever game we caught was for all of us and the entire community. But today, it's I want to up you. I want to be better than. I want to. My peers cannot. And that's where what Peter has mentioned about the 3 P's of power, pleasure, and possession. That has become the driving force for us as individuals. I want more power than Danish. I want more possessions than Peter. I want to experience pleasure than anyone else in my generation. And that then begins to build that pot of issues that becomes
and breaks us as a community. It breaks us as well.
I think first of all, we are underestimating the impact of what has been done to the modern man, because all these things you're talking about, for me, I'm seeing capitalism.
Oh yes,
and because a man right now is, I mean, even mating rights, the quality of mating rights you get would most likely depend on the positions you have.
Yes.
So I don't know. Are we expecting men to live outside this structure of violence that is quite extractive, and it dispossesses people and it pits one against the other? Not just men, but it's also gender, it's sexual orientation, it's religion, it's tribe. That's what it thrives on. It's got to be this versus this. So I mean, is it that maybe men were not prepared for this, and now we struggle to handle this type of failure in modern? Because I also think there's a difference between the man in the city and the man in the village. I think there's a big difference. These problems you're talking about are just city problems. In the village, when you have your 2-bedroom house, you're a king, and you have like a small shallow borehole.
But you've just said it, you're a king. So it's not different. The standard, the status may be different. Yeah. But it's not different. They at its very basis, the same motivation. And we yes, capitalism has played a huge role in bringing all these issues and making it difficult. And I don't think it's just men who are struggling. We are all struggling to make sense, both genders, whether you're a parent or a mother, a teacher, a profession, we're all struggling to make sense of the realities of the times that we are in. But what happens is that there are no structures. And I think that's what we are discussing, that the structures that help us make sense of the environments we find ourselves in and help us cope and navigate and succeed, those structures are not there.
They've broken down.
They are broken down.
In fact,
they are broken down. And also we are also not innovating enough and changing with the times. For a few thousand years ago, a man was a man because he could provide and protect. But today, to be quite honest, we have to move away from the roles of providing and protection to values. Yes. That's something that we are not talking about. And so we find a modern man who's caught between what society tells him, what his culture and traditions tell him, versus what society expects of him today, and versus and also the state of the community he lives in, and the other gender. There is that expectation of, today a woman is going to say, I don't expect you, and I don't even want you to provide. I can provide for myself.
Yes.
You're not protecting me. You're protecting me from what? I'll employ some security guards or find some way of protection for myself. So when those things begin to happen, they sort of bring conflict between the genders. And you as a man, and I'll say this, and this is, I know that many people don't agree with this, but my position has always been, when we are fighting, when organizations are fighting for feminist rights and feminism and all these things, instead of seeking, and it's an important thing to seek to empower women and give them a platform, how about we begin to deal with the people who are a threat to the issues of the female gender? And the person, the gender that is a threat to the woman, number one, is the man. He's always the perpetrator. How about shifting and helping him learn and build those structures that were there and destroyed, and begin to create new structures that still give him meaning and purpose, versus telling him there's something inherently wrong with you because you are born male?
I think if we're to go that direction, it's problematic, because how would we empathize with the oppressor?
We're not empathizing
Let's
with him.
empathize with the oppressed. But we're going to have like an entire conversation around the changing dynamics around society. And but I think at the bottom of it is that men don't love themselves enough, Peter. Tell me, in your office, how many men walk in for therapy while they know there's therapy?
I don't get any men,
You don't get any men.
unless
Yeah.
it's from addiction,
Yeah.
or the wife is running away, so they're scared.
Yeah.
They've always been asked to come for therapy. Now they say, okay, she's leaving.
Yeah.
I better go for this therapy they talk about.
Yeah.
And sometimes for I mean, when trauma hits them,
Yeah.
you're aware, my wife died exactly 1 year ago,
Yeah.
and that saw me going to therapy.
Yeah.
Luckily, I went willingly,
Yeah.
but men will not even go willingly, even when the trauma hits them. They don't seem to be aware, by the way.
I don't think it's awareness. I think at the bottom of it is that men don't love themselves. And I want to say this: how many men eat well? How many men groom well? How many men just want to live a life that is healthy and balanced? It seems that we thrive in chaos and we thrive in control, an environment that is. And I think it's the caveman in us. I don't know. What do you think?
What do you think?
I don't know. I don't believe that men don't love themselves. I think we do. You cannot be selfish and not love yourself. We've been termed to be very, very selfish gender. I think we do love ourselves, but we fail to seek for that help and support because, to echo what Peter is saying, we are not aware about it and we don't feel safe in it. Yeah. Because the question of safety is important. When a man is speaking about vulnerable stuff, am I safe? Is it safe? Because I'm so expected to always have the answer and figure things out. So if I walk into Peter's office, I don't want to see Peter just as a professional and as a therapist. I also want to know that Peter is a man I can trust.
Yes.
At a very individual level.
Okay.
So that then I can bear and tell him this is what is happening in me, knowing that, and at times I'm not even looking for solutions. I just need to speak to someone.
Just to be heard.
To be heard as I figure things out.
Yeah.
But maybe a question to Peter as well is, you've practiced for however many years. How many men have come into your office? But more importantly, how many times have you, as a therapist yourself, who's aware of the space and the benefits, how many times have you walked to another therapist's office?
The good thing is I'm required for my license to go and see a therapist.
Yes.
So at least that has helped me over the years. That has helped me over the years. But as I said earlier, I don't have any men clients.
Not even one. Okay, before I stop being your client, it's fine. But
yes, he was my client, but I don't think he came willingly.
I didn't come willingly. When things had hit and things had become thick.
But I think this answers that same question of evolution. You remember when a lion shows weakness, it dies. Its survival is threatened by showing any kind of weakness. So I'm thinking that has gone on. We are very shy in showing any kind of weakness. Yeah, that's why we are not in a hurry to go into a space that could show, oh yeah, I'm sick, because you're talking about taking care of ourselves. We that's why we hardly go to a health center at all. Unless we are really sick.
But Dan was telling about health-seeking behaviors that because women, do go for maternity. I mean, what's the name of this thing prenatal care? That because of prenatal care, women get better quality because of that prenatal care, they do a whole screening, so their health habits are much better than men. But I think at the core of all this also is that men are not men. There are men who are living they're living in the sky. Like, for example, you can't afford that house. You can't afford that vehicle. You don't have money to take that mortgage. You're not able to afford dating that girl. But what is it about you that is so daring that you want to go against?
Because we are aspirational. We always hope for the best.
Be realistic.
No. If you are realistic, Danish, would be a few million years back today. Men were forced, and men have always been forced and have pushed through aspirations and dreams to aim for better and more, even when there was risk.
Can you dream, Eric, but live in the moment? Okay, why would you go and take a rental house that goes, I'm telling you, as somebody who has lived beyond my means, part of the major reason that led me to the breakdown I had. And that's the story of many men. We are hanging out in places we cannot afford, drinking alcohol we cannot afford regularly. We are dating people we cannot afford. That's the truth. And we are driving vehicles or are aspiring to vehicles we can't afford. How many men are living beyond their means in this city of Nairobi?
I think it's lack of mentorship.
Yeah.
You've not been mentored. You've not had a group of men or society
guide
that are
you.
mentoring the boy child. That live within your means. This is the way to go, and things like that. I think that's the gap that there is. That there's no mentorship on how to live life. Yeah. So the only thing we are seeing are these people doing so well, doing so, and as you're saying, even mating rights are based on how well you've done. Yeah. But back to that question, I was saying, it's still the survival instinct just gone awry. Totally. Yeah. Instead of just you see in the jungle, it was I've killed a goat and I'm okay for today. But what are we doing? We want to kill 100 goats just to make sure that we are okay for 100 years or something like that. It doesn't make sense. That's where the greed really comes in. I think we've become a very greedy sort of. And that's where we are looking for more pleasure every day. We're looking for more possession. We're looking for
More power.
for more power.
Let me also say this, Danish, just before you jump in, to build on what Peter is saying, that of course, lack of mentorship, and that lack of mentorship is that lack of structures. The other thing about therapy, the way therapy is done, for us men, we don't like talking about our problems. We want to figure out solutions.
Yes.
Give me, highlight a blind spot I'm not seeing. Give me information that will help me overcome this stage and go to the next level. Yeah. And maybe that's why today I usually say, and I work with young men a lot. That's one of the reasons why video games are so attractive to young men, because it's about overcoming one stage to go into another. Something that is hardwired in us as men. We always want to unlock the next level. Yeah. So if I'm struggling on this level, I don't want to talk about it. I want to figure out how to get out of this level. Yeah. If you look at, I'd like to imagine if you look at a few thousand years ago, when there were those barazas where men sat around and issues were discussed as community issues. This is what needs to happen. We're afraid, someone, a leader would come and say, by the way, predictions are saying that there will be no rain next season. So that there were discussions on what needed to happen. Solution oriented. Men are just scared of going. I struggle going to therapy if I'm just going to talk about my problems. I want to discuss solutions. I want to talk about what are the next things that I need to do. How do I go to that next level?
We are very practical.
We are very practical. We are action oriented. But so those spaces need to be created where men discuss solutions, problems and solutions, not just problems. If you ask us to come and just talk about our problems, how are you helping me? I'll just go home more depressed than the moment.
But I think that's also a which I need Peter to clarify what happens in a therapist room. But I can tell you my experience. Last year in October, I was struggling with sleep because I was going through some personal issues. When I talked to Joram, my therapist, Joram, we did not talk about solutions. What Joram asked me is, why are you feeling the way you do? And by the time we were done by the second session, by the first session, my sleep returned to normal. By the second session, I'd already found solutions to my own personal problem, because I think cognitive behavioral therapy is not just talking about your problem, but sometimes those problems is what's stopping you from seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. So what CBT does is that it helps you to sort of process this. But Eric, my work is as a moderator here really is to push you guys to the deep end to give me good conversation. I feel like when it comes to male conversations, we're like Africans and European values. We only want to go back to being really Africans. when it comes to things that favor us. Like, before the white man came, we used to do this, but we drive the white man car, we live in the white man's house, we speak the white man's language, but we romanticize about a past that is not there anymore. The same way with men. Why are we romanticizing a past that we're not cavemen anymore? We're not hunters and gatherers anymore. We're not living in tribes. We're not naked anymore. We're dressed and we've gone to school and all these things. Why can't we adopt this reality? Peter, is it some sort of cognitive dissonance where this is the reality, but because the reality is overwhelmingly difficult to adjust to, we want to go back and now romanticize about a past that we know we can never go back to somehow justify why we are in the mess we are in.
I don't think we are romanticizing it, because the people we are talking about have just been in this generation, in these same problems that they are in. And the only thing I'm saying is there are certain things which are hardwired for us, which is what we need to deal with. The whole idea of men not seeking help and all that, apparently it's ingrained in us. Suicide levels, and men's suicide is a universal thing, by the way. It's not just for us Kenyans. And there are ways that other countries have worked with it. For example, Japan and Korea had the highest suicide rates. Yes, so they've had to sort of address it. Of course, most of it they found that was driven by slumps in the economy. When that happens, of course, men feel emasculated. If I don't have a job, if things like that. So those things will always happen. So it's men who need to mature in a
Take
lot
responsibility.
of ways. Yes, they need to take responsibility for their health, mental and whatever. But now we know that problem exists. So we need to face it. You talked about women having opportunities to get their health checked. Why can't we have basic anxiety and depression screens as part of the triage when you go to a hospital? And especially targeting men. And why men especially? Because men will not go to hospital until things are very bad. And the things which take them to hospital could probably be depression, because he could be having a lot of pains here and there, but actually what he has is actually depression. And that's why men are not picked up fast enough, because for example, their depression shows in different ways, headaches, things like that. So that could help, making sure that the screening is automatic in any hospital. Just the way you take temperature, have a small screening test just to test emotionally. Okay, that's a suggestion.
Of course, number one, I don't think it's a question of men taking more responsibility. That issue of taking more responsibility is front and center of why men are committing suicide. Are in a lot
And by
of
the
problems.
way, we say die by suicide.
Yes,
we don't say commit.
Yeah, die by suicide. But there is also when we say that men and men are not mature, men are immature, it's a man boy. When you use those terms, those are exactly some of the issues that just make it absolutely difficult for a man to find a safe space and a footing to begin to thrive in society and community. Those responsibilities, those expectations, that's what we are calling, that's what we are calling expectations that then make it almost impossible, nearly impossible, for a man to thrive and do well in society. The reason why death by suicide is high among the male gender is because of the responsibilities and expectations that this very society that keeps on telling a man he's not good enough still places on this person who is not good enough. We are, and it's not about us going back to the good old days, Danish. It's creating, like Peter is mentioning, creating avenues and spaces where our health is considered and our health is also planned for. Yeah, without leaving it to chance. And that's what has happened in society. Yes, we are living in a white man's home, we are doing all these things, but the structures in our community that maintained the mental health of both genders, actually the reason why our suicide rates might be high and continuing to rise, but they're not as high as those Western countries because of those structures. Those structures are needed. And it's not because we are trying to be nice to men and men are weak, as people would want to claim and throw out there that, the male gender is weak. It's not because we are weak. It's because we can tell that there is a problem in how men are mentored and developed, and the spaces where they're capable and able to share and talk and deal with some of these challenges. Do we need to reduce our living expenses as men? Yes. But that's, other than that just being a personal decision, it's also a community level discussion. What are the expectations that we have on our communities? And, what do we communicate in our communities? What we communicate is, Danish, I don't respect you if you don't drive a car. And if you drive a car, then I'll respect you a bit more if you drive a bigger car. Yeah. I won't respect you if you don't have if you're not paying rent somewhere. Even if you go to the village today, you go to the village, if you walked to the village and I drove into the village, I'll be the one who will be respected. And chances are I am the one who's living beyond my means.
Yeah.
The person walking into the village is living within his means. So it's a question of us beginning to shift and change the conversations and give men opportunity to also learn and unlearn some of the things that have been taught and passed down.
Coming to think about it, the happiest nations are flat nations. You see that discrepancy between the poor and the rich in this country makes it a very dangerous place. I was in a conversation the other day, and there's this gentleman who was just walking on the streets and had acid poured on his face. Okay? And it reminded me of another story that there's this young boy whose younger brother is very sick and needs to go to a hospital. They stand in the street hoping for help, and the vehicles are just passing and passing. And how could he get attention? He took a brick and hit a car. And that's how that guy stopped. Of course, he was coming to hit him, but then he says, "It's my brother who's sick." So as long as my brother is sleeping, hungry, there's no peace. However much I'm worth.
Yeah. Eric, as we come to an end, we have 8 more minutes to go. The reason why men die more by suicide, one, it's because of the violent ways they die. So, for example, a man would hang himself at 4 a.m. in the morning when everyone is asleep. A man will drive behind a lorry and hit a lorry while on a high speed. A man will, especially in the Western world, why it's high is because of the access to guns. So a man would shoot themselves. A man would so you find that that's the major reason why men, because depression, evidence shows that we are between these two genders, we are always sort of like diagnosed at the same level, but men are 3 times more likely to die by suicide because of the violent ways they do. Ladies maybe can just use like pills, and then by the time they come and stuff like that. So secondly, as we come to an end, Eric, you've done a lot of mentorship, and I need to tell people what you do, and how they can plug in. But do you think also we need to change the nature of our mentorship? Like, for example, when I go home and I sit with my uncle, he tells me difficult things. Odongo, why are you not rising up? Why are you not doing this? My dad is a hardliner. He tells me, Odongo, you've got to do this. Of course, sometimes it's hurtful, but do you think that maybe the way we want to do mentorship now of soft candy and ice cream type of mentorship for men is, where we want to call them kababa and hug them and stuff like that. Do you think that hugs are good? But anyway, you get what I mean because you've done this,
First of all, maybe to go back to why death by suicide for men tends to be a bit more violent, is because of our genetic makeup. Testosterone automatically makes us aggressive and highly driven and angry. It comes from also a place of I've given up. I'm giving up. I've failed, but I'm extremely angry as well because of that failure.
Yeah.
I'm angry at myself. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with, with that drive and aggression as a thing that we hold and develops and grows in us. What needs to happen is how then, where we align it and how we direct it to help us become better.
Just to chip in on that
Yes.
before you you go on to your next step. I think that the reason men die more violently is, to start with, it's not easy to diagnose them. That they're not, because of they don't show the basic symptoms that we are showing. They also are not, they don't complain about I'm feeling suicidal. They're not talking to anybody. Most ladies might tell you I'm really feeling low, or I'm feeling suicidal, and I've seen that in therapy. But a man will hardly do that. So it takes long for them to be diagnosed, and by the time they're diagnosed, they're in full-blown depression. Yeah. And of course, then our aggressive nature, our decisive nature, that, I want to die, I die. And I have to choose something that really kills me. I don't want something that will just break me.
Yeah.
So
There has to
I
be some
support what you're
finality.
saying.
But again, then coming now to the issue about mentorship. And that's also part of the reason why I usually get concerned very much when we're talking about helping men. Helping men is not, we're not asking for kumbaya sessions.
Yeah.
We are not saying that the best way to help men is to organize as an organization. Let's have a sit down and have discussions and tea and mandazis and samosas. It won't work. It will not work. The best way to work with men is through action and activity. And that's why, and unfortunately, in our urban centers today, we keep on taking away the spaces that help men expend the extra energy and have an opportunity to talk and get rid of the extra aggression. Soccer pitches, rugby pitches, basketball courts, boxing rings in community centers. I grew up, when I was growing up in the city, there used to be community centers, and one of the features in a community center was a boxing ring. And you began to practice and to experience boxing when you were pretty young, in your 16, 17 years of age. Those things are no longer there. So the best way, one of the best ways to engage and mentor young men, whether it's boys or middle-aged men, is to engage them in activities. When we are in activities, when we are rubbing shoulders, when there is that controlled chaos, we are able to deal with the things that ail us, both emotionally and psychologically, and talk about them in spaces where I'm not in the center. I'm not sitting around a circle and saying, this is how I'm feeling. I haven't done this, and this is where I'm going. It's in spaces where I'm being inspired. There is an excitement over the hope and the aspirations of the future. Those are the ways to mentor boys. And that's what we do as an organization. We are very keen in ensuring that as we work with young men, it's heavy on activities and experiences. It's paintball, it's GP cutting, we are mountain climbing, we are rock climbing, we are doing high ropes, we are doing a mud run, we are water rafting, we are camping out. Those are the things that make men.
And I think you're forgetting, that's how you build character.
And that's how you build character.
That's how people learn how to deal with failure, how to deal with the strong emotions and things like that. So that you're more balanced in society than...
Yeah, and it's putting them through situations where it's control, but it's situations where there's high pressure. There's high pressure, but then we are also allowing you and teaching you and giving you the skills to be able to navigate through that pressure. That's how you prepare and develop men for the world.
Absolutely.
Peter, I need you to give us like sort of practical tips that men can maybe use to thrive more, but also, especially men who are at risk now, like men who are at risk, because I'd like this to have some sort of physical support in terms of, emotional support rather. What are some of the things you can do to ease off the pressure, to sort of feel better and stuff like that?
Of course, as he said, activity, but in terms of men, we're talking about exercising. I've helped many people who had who had serious depression without medication. Yeah, and that the first thing, of course, get somebody to talk to.
Get somebody to talk to.
Yeah, because and that's what CBT is about. It's to show you to give you, especially when you're depressed, your thought process is at a very bad place because you're feeling hopeless. So you need somebody to show you a different way of thinking, of looking at things. So that help. If you can't get it from just a friend or somebody, then get a therapist. And therapists, I just for example, most level 5 hospitals have counseling departments and have a psychiatrist, in fact,
So like,
and for free.
What are some level 5 in Nairobi?
I know of, I think, Mama Lucy,
Mbagathi?
Bagadi.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think a lot of other organizations are giving free counseling.
Okay.
So men really need to know that mental illness is not weakness. It's like getting malaria. It's common. Every one of us can get it.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, it's only a step away. It's only a trauma away. As I said, somebody will die. I have a friend who has lost his foot from diabetes. Those things are hard to get through on your own. Be ready to ask for help, and help is available.
Okay.
Yes.
But I also think we need to tell men that it's okay to live in a neighborhood you can afford.
Absolutely.
It's okay to say, I can't afford that date. If you go out and you see somebody drinking beyond your budget, stop them, say, I've not budgeted for that.
Assertiveness.
Assertiveness,
Be
exactly.
assertive.
It's okay for you to wake up and take responsibility for your own life. Nobody is coming to save you in this city, especially where we're very personal and capitalistic in nature. It's okay to prioritize yourself, to be like genuinely selfish, because we imagine that if we love everybody else except ourselves, then we are good, and we have this hero syndrome where we want to love more. But if genuine love for people begins when we genuinely love ourselves, and we prioritize our mental health, and we prioritize ourselves. I'm telling you, for me, I have had considerable growth by just admitting that I can't afford that, I can't be there, can't do that. I'm sorry, and drawing my boundaries. And sometimes going back home on a Friday and actually sleeping very early, as long as you have Wi-Fi in the house. Even if you don't have Wi-Fi, just go and sleep. But hanging out with friends and you can't afford it, then ultimately next week you're on Fuliza, you've gone on debt, and you're taking mobile loans to impress people who don't love you, don't care about you, and the day something happens to you, that's when you know the real nature of your friends. It's possible. But also plug to community. Very, very important community.
Okay, we're talking about mentoring, but I would also talk about parenting. I talked about parenting in our last session. It's me as your father who will accept you as you are. I have to start. We have to start accepting our children as they are, and building their character, teaching them it's okay to fail. Yeah. And we are okay. We are poor, probably, but we are happy. We are happy in our family. Okay. So that issue of acceptance within the families, that has to be built there. The character has to start from home, even before it goes to mentoring.
To mentorship.
Eric, I need you to have your final comment, but also tell them how they can find Yazoo Africa and what you do, like in a minute. Peter, the same. But I want to add that even Peter, families can be an extreme source of pain, especially unrealistic expectations. So you as a man decide whether you're going to succumb because of your father's expectations of you or your mother's expectation. You've got to decide. And just decide that I'm going to live my life the way I want under my terms. Of course, not easy. It's very difficult, but it's far much better than succumbing.
Succumbing. Yes, of course, especially for men, a lot of our pain, unfortunately, begins mostly at our homes, at the home space, whether it's the parental expectations, whether it's from the mother or the father, or the disappointments of the parents. And men just have it a bit more difficult. We don't know how to deal with it, especially when your father is not proud of you and disappointed by you. And as we look for these structures, and for us, as specifically as an organization, as Yazoo Africa, our work is to begin with the generation that is back there, from the ages of 12 all the way to 21. And the reason why we focus on that specific age group is because we feel that in another 30, 50 years, if we prepare that generation well, then we completely shift the trajectory of not only our country, but this side of the continent, East Africa, and the entire continent. If we give them the skills and the tools to prepare them for a life of impact in their community, of leadership, of innovation and entrepreneurship. And some of the ways that we work with boys is through, like I'd mentioned, through activities. We are an activity-heavy organization. We push them and place them in situations where character is forged and formed. And we have different leadership models, a model that focuses on decisions that a young man makes, and we call it I Decide. What are the decisions that a man makes, and what does that mean, and how does that look, and what are the values that form the foundation for you to lead a successful life. And we work with boys from that age all the way to 21, where we are talking about a man who is building. We are very we say that we want to create men who are keen on building, even as they are keen on their own health. But for them to know that one of the expectations and the standards and the values of masculinity is that you build, is that you do something. And maybe if we begin to love and to accept our purpose and to see that maybe I'm going to build this table and this gives me satisfaction, away from me wanting to race and compete and start and try to become something that I'm not, that this gives me a certain sense of fullness and satisfaction, then this is enough for me. So that's how we run our programs. And we can be reached through the social media pages. Our website is Yazoo Africa, and Africa is with a K, yazooafrica.com. And just Yazoo Africa, both on Facebook and Instagram. And we invite your audience and the public to plug in their sons for the coaching and mentorship programs that we run for boys.
Practical, can invite men. Where are you? What the services that you offer, and how can those support men to overcome some of these challenges?
Okay, as I said, I'm a counseling psychologist. I'm based just next to the Bagadi Hospital at Kenyatta Market. That's where I have an office, a private practice, and I would really like to invite men reach out. Okay, I'm sure we can share on Wellness Tribe. Let them reach out, and we'll definitely get in touch with them. I know a lot of counselors are ladies, and men might not want to open up to ladies, but we can link them up to men psychologists that they can talk to as well. So it's okay. It's okay to not be okay, provided you seek help. You just don't say I'm okay and you're not seeking help. So seek help. The Wellness Tribe is there, and through them you can reach and get some good help.
All right.
Psychologically.
So I do this because in 2018 I had terrible mental health breakdown, and my life fell apart. I went into terrible debt. I was going through some crazy health stuff, and my life was literally falling apart. It was through therapy and through admitting that I needed help that I got a hold of my life. And then I realized that there are so many men who are like me, living with beyond their means, getting debts that are not necessary, hanging out in places they can't afford, honestly speaking. And of course, neglecting the trauma that we've gone through, neglecting these things that make us who we are. So you see somebody who's dressed well, you don't see the trauma they carry or the boy in the man. And therefore, I urge you that put yourself first and take charge. And therefore, we are available as the Wellness Tribe. We have a program for men. We call it the Mantra, where we have got programs around money, around emotional health, around physical health, and we do all that so that then we can equip you to be a better father, a better brother, a better son, but above all else, a better citizen who can build this country. Because I think I'm also tired of hearing just too many bad news about men. We need to start hearing good news about men, the men who are building, the men who are loving, the men who are present, the men who are doing amazing stuff, and they're there. But we need to tell more of those stories. Adios. Until next time, let us know which next topic you want us to discuss. Until next time, this is the Wellness Tribe, and my name is Danny Shodongo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.